Welcome back. Today we'll be talking about this Glock 43X. Now, when talking about the Glock 43X, it's really best to compare it to the Glock 43 here. And that's because really both these pistols are very similar, but you might notice two distinctive features right off the bat. The 43X has a silver finish, but it's not just the color that's different on here. The finish is actually different than the standard Glock finish. This is actually a different type of finish, but we'll get in that in a little bit. And the other thing that you notice is the grips are different lengths. Matter of fact, we can show you that. Let's talk about that for a little bit. The 43X is about an inch longer than this 43. And not only that, the mag wells on the 43X is slightly larger than the 43. And that's because both these pistols are advertised as a single stack, but this is actually more of a 1.5 stack. Now I have the magazines here. Here's a 43X sort of 1.5 stack magazine. It's not a double stack and it's not a single stack, it's something in between. And here is the 43 single stack. And you notice side by side, this one's definitely a little bit wider than this one. And the magazine capacity is much different. Here we have a 6-round capacity, and here we have a 10-round capacity. Now these are the standard flush-fitting magazines. This actually isn't made by Glock. That's a different company there, aftermarket. However, it's very similar to the actual factory Glock mag, but I can show you that both of these are flush-fitting, and that makes quite a difference. This extra inch here on this one is giving you about 4 more rounds versus only an inch-ish more of a grip. So there are definitely pros and cons to that. I actually still prefer my 43 here just because this part of the firearm is really the most difficult when trying to conceal carry. I'm a bit of a thinner guy and I have thinner waist, so this sticks out a lot easier. However, if you're perhaps a bigger gentleman or even female, this might actually be a little bit easier to hide. If you're wearing very baggy or loose clothing, or maybe if you're wearing a hoodie, you could easily hide this. But during like the summer times and stuff, I typically like to carry this guy. But now, besides just the magazines, both these pistols are actually very similar. Let's actually take a look at the slides. Give you a close-up here. Now, I was saying earlier that this finish is actually different than the standard Glock finish. It's not just a different color, it's a different type of finish altogether. Not exactly sure why they chose to change that, because honestly it feels a little bit rougher than their standard slide finish. You can hear that. Kind of feels like you're rubbing 2 chunks of metal together with sandpaper. It's okay, I guess, for some people. I like it to be a little bit smoother, and just to show you what I mean by that, here we have a standard finish on a Glock. And you can definitely hear some clinking in there of metal. That's mostly just the recoil spring and few of the other smaller parts with the trigger. I won't get into that too much, but it definitely sounds different, and I'll play it back for you here. Now, I know that you're only hearing the sound of that, but I can definitely tell you this slide is a little bit easier to actually actuate than this one. This one's a little stiff, not a lot for your just average shooter probably to notice. It actually took me a little bit of time to actually notice that this one is a little bit more stiff. And again, I think that's really just because of this different finish. I'm not too big of a fan on it. I'm fine with the color and all. It's just the finish. It's different than the flat black finish. And we can show you that the insides of both of these pistols, there goes the guide rod, are very similar. Here we have both the recoil springs. You can see those are pretty much the same. I imagine they both work in either pistol, really. Let's move on to the barrels. Which again, both pretty much exactly the same. I can't really tell any real difference between either one of them. You might see this one's a little bit more worn because I've had it for a few more years and I've definitely put quite a bit more ammunition in it. But besides that, they're both the same. These slides, again, they have the same parts on the insides. I won't take those apart. If you're actually wondering how this takes apart, I do a video breakdown of this pistol in another one of my videos. You can go check that out. I won't bother tearing this one apart because it's so similar to this one. There's just no difference, really. In fact, I'd wager that this pistol probably could almost work with this slide. This one does look a little bit thicker, but I think it might just be because of the serrations that they made on the fore part of the pistol. That is different. The front end is also slightly different. They just curved out some points up here. This one's a little bit more boxed. This has a little bit more of a rounder edge. No real difference really to write home about. The triggers and the insides of both the pistols are, again, very similar. I imagine most of these parts are actually interchangeable, but I would definitely double check on Glock's website to actually make sure that they actually are. Again, the frames are totally different just because of the length of the grip and the magazines. Now you're probably wondering, could I put a 43X magazine and just a 43? And the answer is absolutely not. It will not go in whatsoever. It is not wide enough. I wish it was. I'm not really sure what they were thinking, because when they came out with these pistols, this one came out first and then this one came out I believe a year later or maybe a few months after this one came out. And for the life of me, I don't know why they just decided to go with a larger magwell on this one and not just enlarging the magwell on this one so that the magazines could be interchangeable. Not to mention you'd get more ammunition in this one. Maybe it's because they don't want to actually compete with maybe some of the other similar pistols at this size that takes similar magazines to how the 43X are, such as, you know, the Sig Sauer P365 or even the Springfield Hellcat, etc., etc. Maybe they just don't want their pistols grouped in there, or maybe they just thought like, hey, everybody else is doing it, we don't want to be like everybody else. I'm not sure really what the people at Glock were thinking, but I definitely would have rather had it so that the magwell on this was wide enough to take these magazines, because really, I mean, who doesn't want to have more ammunition? 10 rounds, 6 rounds. Not really much bigger. Just to show you in comparison, here is my extended little magwell. which there's plenty of different ones of these. This one right here, I believe, is a +3. This is a 9-round magazine. And just to show you comparison between a 9 and 10 round, this one is slightly larger, but it holds one less bullet. A little bit annoying. Still, if you're really kind of deciding maybe on getting into one of these two, that's really a big selling point. I would actually suggest you maybe go with the SIG or Springfield, or maybe one of the other pistols that are similar size to this one, that are able to hold magazines more like this one. Honestly, I wish we could just have a 43X with this chopped off slightly higher, and I also would rather have the flat dark slide assembly rather than whatever they're using in this one. But that is my review of these two pistols. Again, really, I think it really just comes down to personal choice. I personally like this one just because it's slightly smaller on the hand. This one holds more ammunition, but is slightly longer. Really, it really just depends on the person. If you have wide hips, maybe this would be fine for you. If you have narrow hips like me, maybe go with this one. But either way, I don't think you can go too wrong with either one of these pistols. Glock is definitely known for being reliable, and that's really all I have to say about it. Please like, comment, and subscribe.